Yo guys, what is good? This is the Uncle Sharma channel. This is a quarantine special. Call me Quentin Quarantino. Call me Quarantina Turner. Quarantino Baggio. Quarantini Temper. All of them. I'm just here bored out of my mind, and I thought, why not do a video reviewing our season? And the season is dusted, guys. I'm sorry to say. I know there's some hopes from some people that maybe, when this corona thing dies down, that maybe, the season will get underway. It's done. Get over it. Corona came in, last minute winner is done. 95th minute. La Liga, Premier League, all of them done. Serie A, of course, is done. They're just about to decide what they do, whether they cancel the whole season or they give the current standings, they finish it with the current standings. But I thought this would be a good chance to look back at the season and give my kind of tier list of the Inter squad from the 2019-20 season. So I've chosen slightly different rankings from the other tier list that you see around the internet. So I've gone for the worst, obviously shite. After that is below expectation. Then after that is ordinary. And then there'll be a good season, and then finally player of the year contender if you've been sick. So yeah, let's get right into it, and hope you enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm gonna try put some content out in this quarantine period because I'm just bored out of my mind, man. Obviously we'll start off in the list of the squad list that you can get online, and the first guy that comes up there, Tommaso Berni, who's basically like the mascot of the Inter team. Not applicable really if we're gonna be technical, but he's the team mascot. Without him, the team wouldn't be performing as they are, with his bald head and his weird social media posts. Not applicable. Moving on, of course, the main man in goal, Samir Handanovic. He has had another great season, man. Like, this guy is getting better and better with age. Last year, of course, he won player or keeper of the year award for the Serie A, well deserved. This year there's been a bit more competition in terms of good keepers in the Serie A. It's not been as clear cut. The Lazio goalkeeper Strakosha has been good, Szczesny's been good, Donnarumma's been good. So overall there's been more competition in the Serie A. But looking at Inter, looking at his performance, I think he is one of the player of the year contenders. I don't remember any standout mistakes from him. Like in past seasons we've seen a few moments where he doesn't dive. All the Inter fans love to bash him about that, but I don't remember many moments like that this year. Obviously there's always saves that he could have done better here and there, but his leadership qualities and his performances have been good. So for me, he has been one of the better players of this season, and he goes in the player of the year contender category for me. His understudy Daniele Padelli, he has been shy. There's no other way, and there's no two ways about it. When he was called into action, one of the very rare times that he was called into action, we were expecting a lot better. I was expecting a lot better, because he used to be the Torino #1 keeper, and he used to be, a good keeper. I thought, as a backup, not bad. But, when Samir Handanovic was injured, when he was needed, he just didn't rise up to the challenge. And we need another understudy to Handanovic if we need to move forward as a team, and Padelli's not that man. Moving on to the defense, we'll start off with a youngster, 20-year-old Alessandro Bastoni, the signing from Atalanta, who was on loan to Parma last season. Took a while to get into the team, but once he got into the team, we're seeing some great potential there. We're seeing possibly the future of the Italian national defense. Left-footed, elegant, comfortable on the ball, aggressive, good tackler, good reading of the game. He's the complete modern defender, really. He had 12 appearances this season, 12 appearances this season, one goal, one really important goal, that goal against Lecce when he came on in the second half. And him at left centre back he's looked better than Godin and Skriniar, because he's a natural left-footed player. He feels more comfortable there, and I really like to watch him play. Like, he's an enjoyable player. He's aggressive. He likes to take risks with the ball as well. I still remember that run he did against Napoli with the ball. He came 50-60 yards with the ball at his feet, and that's exactly what you need in a 3 defender formation like we have. And I can't wait to see this guy come under and develop under the Conte. And I think he's going to have a good chance, especially with the Euros being delayed till next year. If he continues like this, he might make the Italian national team at this rate. And for me, he goes in the good season tier, because obviously he only had 12 appearances. We can't give him a Player of the Year contender type award for this, but impressive season. And looking forward to seeing this guy in an Inter shirt in the future, hopefully. Moving on to Cristiano Biraghi, the melon head, the pineapple head. This guy, he has been probably the one that's been most targeted by Inter fans on social media outlets, because of his lack of quality at many points, lack of personality. But to be honest, when you look at it, for what he's come, that straight swap deal with the Dalbert, and we have an option to buy him for around 6 million euros or something. He's not been that bad. It looks like we might not even sign him on a permanent basis. I think he was signed mainly because he's Italian and he was brought up in the youth system, so it helps with the UEFA lists. Stat-wise, he had 1 goal and 3 assists, which is not too bad. But overall, I give him a tier of below expectations, because we expected a little bit more, especially under Conte. We thought he could bring him up to the next level. At Fiorentina, he was pretty decent at set pieces, and the Inter, he has shown none of that. His crossing hasn't been as good as well. Moving on to one of the cult heroes of the modern Inter era, which is Danilo D'Ambrosio. The man, only deserves respect for putting his body and his... The man just deserves respect for always putting his body on the line, being there when, Inter have needed him in the last few years. But unfortunately this year, he's been hampered by injuries. Only 19 appearances this season. And, he hasn't been able to contribute as much because he has been split between playing right wing back and playing right centre back. And I think that right centre back position in the three defender formation is the best position for him, because he just doesn't have that dynamism going forward, especially in a wing back position. You need to have a bit more athleticism about you, 1v1 ability, which Danilo unfortunately doesn't have. But he's such a reliable player, and such a key quality squad player to have. And for me, he just had I would say he's had an ordinary season, unfortunately, due to injuries. Up next is one of the best free transfers in recent memory, Stefan de Vrij. What a player. Well, I'm going to say definite Player of the Year category. And for me, he is the Player of the Year. It's hard, I don't see how you can argue for any other player. This guy has been completely... The consistency this guy has shown this season has been outstanding. Pretty much every single match he's been at least a 7 out of 10. Always he's never looked in trouble at any point. On the ball as well, he's been great. He's even provided some assists. He's provided some great passes in behind defenses when teams are defending deep. Leadership qualities. He's been injury free. In the past he was known to be an injury prone player, but he's just been absolutely amazing. And I think he is the most underrated player in the Serie A. I don't like saying things like that because especially Inter players this year have been saying, he's underrated, and you can only say something so many times before a player doesn't become underrated if you keep saying he's underrated. But when I see like other people or people from other leagues making the lists of best centre-backs, and De Vrij is not even in there, people like Harry Maguire are in the top 10 in the world apparently, and De Vrij is not there, that's when still... We need to let people know about De Vrij, because this guy needs some recognition. He needs to be in the Dutch national team ahead of De Ligt, especially considering the performances this past season, because he has been the best centre-back in the Serie A in my eyes. And I think other fans will struggle to argue that fact, to be honest. The other one, this was a tricky one, Diego Godin. Came with a big reputation, big experience from Atletico Madrid, free transfer, but of course big wages because of the free transfer. A lot of people have been kind of disappointed with him. They've been, I would say, he was edging towards the below expectation rating. But for me, I would say he's been an ordinary season. He's not particularly in his ideal position. Usually he's used to playing in a typical defender formation. He's had to adapt to this right centre-back position, which, sometimes leaves him a bit exposed against the wingers and, tricky players on that side of the pitch. but he's not done too bad. Like we saw against in the big matches against like AC Milan, he was great against Rafael Leao. Obviously his pace leaves to be a desired sometimes, but I don't really see so much why he gets so much criticism. He's adapted quite well to the league. Yes, we expected a bit better, but overall I think he's had an ordinary season. If he was playing the central centre back position like De Vrij is, I think he would have been a lot more comfortable there. That position gets a lot more protection. And that's the same case for the next player, Milan Skriniar. He's had a big dip this season in terms of performance. He's been playing He's played the majority of the season at left centre back, which has clearly, he's not comfortable out there. He's not left-footed. He's not great with his left foot either, and it puts him at a handicap, especially when he's defending. He'll try to stick his right leg out first when he should be sticking out his left leg. You can just see he's not comfortable there. So same as Godin, I would believe that if he was in the position that De Vrij plays in, he would be a lot more comfortable. That position gets so much more cover, and you not have to, the first defensive action when you have to go out to defend against the winger. But overall, again, I wouldn't say he's below expectations. I did expect him to struggle. I would put him in ordinary season. He's not been that bad for me. It's just that obviously people have been rating him really highly, and I rate him really highly from the past seasons. He's just not been at that same level. But ordinary season, I think, is the fair rating for his season. Elsewhere, Andrea Ranocchia, just a reliable substitute now. I don't have that panic every time he comes on the pitch as I used to have in the past. Antonio Conte effect. Especially in a 3 defender formation with a little bit more protection, especially if he plays in the center of the 3. He's fine there. So another ordinary season rating there. Moving on to the January signing, Ashley Young came in from Manchester United. Bit of an eyebrow raising transfer. Even I remember doing the reaction to the transfer, but I was like, Antonio Conte, I trust you. Whoever you want, whatever you want, just have it. And yeah, this guy has been an absolute revelation for Inter. He's had 6 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist. I was not expecting such a good impact. This guy has not dropped a bad performance yet in those 6 appearances. Obviously, he's not a long-term signing, but he's been a good signing, and for that reason, I'll give him a good season. I'll give him a good season tier. We have to ignore whatever he did at Man United. I don't think he had that good season at Man United, but that doesn't really matter. All we care about is what he did at Inter this season, and it's been good. And then moving on to Valentino Lazzaro. Yes, I know he's not an Inter player right now. Technically, he's on loan to Newcastle, but he's an Inter player. He had 8 appearances and 2 assists before he left for Newcastle. Which I thought wasn't too bad. As I said in my reaction video, if you go back to January when Newcastle signed him on loan, I was disappointed to see him go. I thought, he was the only wing back that we have that offered that athleticism and 1v1 ability attacking wise. Obviously, Antonio Conte clearly didn't rate him as a defender, but I thought, there was something there to be worked with. But moving to Newcastle, he's proved that, this guy is just not ready for the level of football that we want to play. He got exposed against Arsenal. He got destroyed by 18-year-old Bukayo Saka, got sent off, was at fault for a goal. But then he's been playing better when he's played in the winger position. I believe when they play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 at Newcastle, he's been playing better, but that's not the position that we need him in. So it looks like this guy will be shipped out in the summer or whenever the football resumes again, because Antonio Conte clearly was disappointed with him and is not looking to pursue trying to improve him or bed him into the team. So overall quite disappointing, and for him I'll give a below expectation tier rating. Now let's move on to the midfield, starting off with the guy who had 1 appearance of like 6 or 7 minutes, Lucien Agume. I was hoping to see more of him this season, but we have to give him a not applicable because the boy just hasn't had any time. But apparently he's been decent in the Primavera in the youth team, so let's see how he comes on, and hopefully Conte gives him more of a chance next season. Next up we got Asamoah. Obviously he could have been on the defender list, but I'm just going off with the squad list that I've seen online. injury ravaged season, very disappointing for Asamoah. Obviously not his fault really. He had 10 appearances and 1 assist, and yeah, that has to be a below expectation season. Obviously we thought last season when he came in as a free transfer, we thought we had solved that left back position problem, because he was just a solid, reliable, consistent player, apart from the 1 or 2 mistakes that we remember from last season. But overall, it was a great signing. But at wing back, in the summer I was expressing my doubts of whether he can cover that wing back position as well. Now with his advancing age, he's not as quick anymore, and he's very shy on the ball now. He always he prefers to go back. He hardly ever tries to be his man 1v1. And he's really not the player that he used to be anymore. I would see him more moving into a central mid position now that he's getting older. Tier list rating for him is below expectation for me. Now moving on to one of the biggest signings of the summer, Nicolo Barella. When he was signed, I was super hyped. Took a little while to get used to the team, Antonio Conte's tactics, and the physicality of the Pintus methods. But 29 appearances, 3 goals, 3 assists. A good return really for Barella. Obviously we could have expected a few more assists and goals maybe here and there, but good return overall. And he's had a good season. This guy is the future of Italy's midfield. He does everything. You can put him in whatever position in midfield, and even on the wing. In against AC Milan in the first derby, when we switched formation to 4-5-1, he was out on the left wing when he whipped that cross in for Lukaku. And at some points when Brozovic wasn't there, he even stepped in as the regista role, and he was decent. And this guy can just do everything, but he just needs to improve in that final half. Improve that final ball and that final his finishing and shooting, because we need more goals from midfield. But overall, at some points he was definitely player of the year contender for me, but he had a slow start, and then he had some really high points and then some average points. So overall I'll give him good season, but he was close to almost making that player of the year contender, because at some points he did carry the midfield when Brozovic was tired and Sensi was missing. So big props to Barella. Moving on to Nonno Valero, Borja Valero. He had 15 appearances and 2 goals, so not a bad return, to be honest. At the start of the season, I was really, disappointed with Conte not playing him at all. I thought he could have been the guy that could have stepped in and arrested Brozovic at some points, but he seemed to be so stubborn at playing Brozovic every single minute, which ended up costing us. And then when he started playing Borja, you could see that, he's a serviceable player. He can do a job when it's needed, and yeah, he did a job here and there. Obviously, he's not a reliable for, you can't play him 2 matches in a row anymore now, or you can't play him, in high tempo situations. But so for him, I'm giving him an ordinary season tier. Not too bad, and not too amazing either. Then moving on to Brozovic, as I was mentioning, this guy, has been played like a overworked immigrant. The boy just he had to play every single moment whenever he was fit or not suspended. Ended the season with 3 goals and 6 assists, which is the most of his high contribution for a defensive midfielder, which is a problem really. It's annoying that he still has to get involved so much into the final third play, where he really should be dictating the play from deeper, and it should be the other midfielders that should be providing more. But he's so good at shooting from range, and doing and those through balls and lofted balls, because he's one of the best defensive midfielders in the world right now. Really lucky that we have him, and he's developed into this player. Shout out to Spalletti, who converted him into defensive midfield. And overall I would give him player of the year contender. I was debating between player of the year and good season, because he had a big drop off at some point, and that was because Conte kept playing him, and he was clearly not mentally, physically ready in some of those matches. He made a few mistakes here and there, so I'm kind of putting him in the middle of the good season and player of the year category, and he has a 60 million release clause which needs to be removed as soon as possible. Moving on to Antonio Candreva. He used to be the meme lord of the Inter community on social media, but Antonio Conte and his magic turned him into a good player once again. Not a meme player anymore, although people still like to make fun of him now that he's the beardless Candreva. Antonio Conte's magic, as I said, he's at 27 appearances, 4 goals, 6 assists. I mean, that's a really good return when you look at it. But, you know, he started off the season really, really well. Like, he looked like, wow, we don't need another wing back. But then obviously, you know, he is 32, 33 years old. Not as quick anymore, and you know, he's not the same player he used to be anymore in general. And you know, he had a big drop off towards the end of the season. But you know, overall, I'll give him a good season tier. Moving on to Roberto Gagliardini, another one that's, you know, a target for Inter fans. You know, he's a frustrating player because we've seen him play well, but then we've also seen him drop absolute stinkers, and you know, it's been a mixture of that again this season. When he plays against Genoa, he seems to turn into like prime Paul Pogba, but then everywhere else he's just, you know, doesn't seem to know how to play football. His stats this season: 16 appearances, 2 goals, 1 assist. You know, not too bad, but you know, not brilliant either. Obviously, he was being hampered by injuries all season. And overall, I'll just give him a below expectations tier. You know, I expect a little bit better from Gagliardini. And then we're moving on to Stefano Sensi. Now, Sensi, if this video was being done in like October, November, this guy would have been instant Player of the Year winner. But unfortunately, the season went on. Unfortunately, the boy got injured like 2 or 3 times. Finished the season still with decent stats, you know, 18 appearances, 5 goals and 2 assists. You know, it was taking free kicks, set pieces, and it looked like he solved those problems that we've had for loads of time. Creative, comfortable on the ball, you know, tricky, nutmegging players, lovely touches, you know, Sensiesta as we were calling him, the Italian Iniesta. But, you know, since those injuries, since that Milan derby where he got injured, or was it the... I think it might have been the Juventus game, sorry. But yeah, he just hasn't been the same since. You know, he's come back a couple of times from injury, but it looks like he was rushed. It's just his body doesn't seem to be cut out for that Antonio Conte workload, that Pintus workload. And even now, the 20 million that we have to pay to buy him from Sassuolo option is looking like a myth. It looked like it might not happen, but you know, let's see. I would still pay 20 million because in this market, I feel like it's not much at all. And hopefully the Inter medical team now know how to cope better with, you know, Sensi's fragile body. But overall, I'd give him a good season because, yeah, those 18 appearances that he's had, you know, 90% of those were very good. Moving on to Matias Vecino, El Mate, you know, another opinion-splitting player, probably the most opinion-splitting player in the Inter squad right now. You either love him or hate him. I'm kind of in the middle of those two. Sometimes, you know, I do appreciate I appreciate what he does in big matches. And again, this season, when it's come to the big matches, like in the Milan derby against Dortmund, you know, he has kind of stepped up as he does. But obviously, he's also really not been good enough in some matches. You know, his technicality really leaves a lot to be desired in some points. But, you know, overall, he finishes the season with 24 appearances, 3 goals, 2 assists. Not too bad. He was also hampered by injuries at one point. So overall, I give him an ordinary season tier. Now, moving on to the 2 January signings. In midfield, Victor Moses, not applicable. He's only had like 3 or 4 appearances. So I can't really judge him. But he's not been that good in the few appearances he's had, especially against Udinese. When he started, he was getting terrorized on that right hand side. Christian Eriksen's had 6 appearances and 1 goal, 1 assist, so I can, you know, give him a little bit more of a judgment. Obviously, we've not seen the best of Eriksen at all. He's been, you know, adapting to a new system, a new way of playing, new league, new country. He's been quarantined obviously now. And I'll give him an ordinary season for now, even though I guess for a lot of people he's been disappointing or below expectation. But for me, I said in my video when we signed him, I'm not expecting too much in these first 6 months or whatever, the 2 months that he's had, poor guy. Because obviously just the step from Premier League to Serie A is just so different. And you know, we'll see next season. Now let's go on to the gunman, the strike force, starting off with a young gun. Starting off with a young gunner, Esposito. He's had you know, not many appearances, but he's had that 1 goal. You know, let's give him a good season. The enthusiasm he shows when he comes onto the pitch, you know, he He runs like a madman, and you can tell that he just loves playing for Inter. Then we move on to obviously the Mauro Icardi replacement, the big summer signing, the signing that Conte was obsessed with, the fetish that Conte had. Romelu Lukaku ends the season with 23 goals and 5 assists. Good numbers, and as I said, like when we signed him, I was expecting these kind of numbers from him around the 20 goal mark, and he achieved that so quickly. The way he's kind of integrated into the team, into the Italian culture and social media, it's been great to see. He's just a great guy overall, but that's what it looks like. I wasn't expecting this improvement on a technical level from him. The way he holds up the ball now and gets involved with the play is really impressive. That shows from the 5 assists that he's had. He's really doing what Antonio Conte wants him to do. And his physique is, he's been leaning up slowly. Even in this quarantine period, the videos that we've seen of him, he looks really lean. He looks like he's lost that muscle mass that he had at Man United, which was definitely holding him back. He looks like he's getting back to the Everton physique. And yeah, overall, he's a player of the year contender for me. Although we must say that, there's still that stigma around him for the big match, when he doesn't score in big matches, which, you can kind of argue this season because he scored against Barcelona, he scored against AC Milan, but is that a big match now? I don't know. When we played Juventus both times, and when we played Dortmund, when we played Slavia Praha in the first leg, he has gone missing a little bit in those matches. We expect a little bit more from him, but overall, I've been really impressed with him. He's been one of my favourite players this season, and definitely a player of the year contender. Now moving on to his strike partner, Lautaro Martinez. He's elevated himself to superstar status this year. He had that potential last year, of course, but now this year he's realising that potential. 16 goals and 1 assist this season. So good numbers, almost a goal every 2 matches. Especially the goals that he scores early on in the matches. This guy just starts off with fire, proper plays in that Antonio Conte way. He's so aggressive, he tackles, slides, he fights for every single ball. He's just great to watch, but he's still lacking that finishing, that clinical edge that he needs to add to his game if he wants to be a true elite. A lot of times he misses some chances, he fluffs the lines when he shouldn't be, maybe because he does work so hard off the ball that he loses a bit of composure, but hopefully that will come in time. But he was definitely, up until January, maybe he was definitely a player of the year contender. But after January, the rumours around Barcelona coming in for him and paying his 111 million release clause, it seems like it's got to him, and he's not been the same player since, and we haven't seen the best Lautaro since that period. So for that reason, I'm giving him a good season tier. But he was up there for player of the year contender for sure before, and he is definitely one of the players I love to watch in this team. The other striker that we have in the squad, Alexis Sanchez, below expectations. I don't think there's many arguments there. Came on as a loan, we're paying half the wages of his crazy salary that Man United are paying him. Player with a big reputation who's had a very bad few years, but we thought Antonio Conte could work his magic like he has for the players, but it hasn't really worked that way. Started off with a bang, with Sampdoria when he scored, assisted and got a red card, but it just hasn't really clicked at any point in this period. And yeah, I think he'll just be sent straight back to United. I don't see him staying here, and below expectations for me. And finally, the player that's not at Inter anymore, he's at Napoli, Matteo Politano, Mr. Crooked Nose. This guy, he was signed after a good season last year. He was one of the better players last year from Sassuolo for around 25 million. But, it just didn't make sense whether, I don't know if Antonio Conte actually sanctioned that purchase, or was it that he thought he could have adapted him to that 3-5-2 position, because it just doesn't work. Like in that striker position, it's not him. He's completely a fish out of water when he's played there. He's provided 0 goals, 0 assists this season. His biggest contribution was probably in the second leg against Dortmund when he came on and got played on with like a sprained ankle, which was heroic. But that's the best thing I remember about him this season. It's just been complete disappointment. Luckily, we've been able to get our money back with the Napoli deal, which is an option to buy, I think, or no, obligation to buy in 18 months. I think for the same amount that we've paid for him from Sassuolo. But yeah, he's been shite. He goes in the shite category. But yeah, so that was my tier list for this season, guys. It's sad boy season, Serie A is not on, but I'll try to come up with new content. Let me know in the comments below for any ideas for quarantine content. I'll try think something up, but help me out. I'm gonna try to keep you guys entertained in this period. Guys, stay safe. Social distancing, it's not a joke. This corona thing is not a joke. Stay safe, stay at home, and make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.